Welcome back to Morning Express. We're glad you're watching. As Jim said, feminism is what we're talking about this morning. And I'm joined in studio by Brenda Wambui, Michael Onsando as well. They are co-founders of an online journal called Brainstorm. And it's When Women Speak. But first, we have a man. So Michael, how are you part of this conversation? Feminism, where do you fit into all this?
Well, you know, men can be feminists too, and I don't think it's about being part of the conversation as much as listening. Because, I mean, we've talked about this, the structures of patriarchy and how it exists and how it oppresses people. And what people don't get is that it oppresses men as well.
Right.
And I mean, with definitions of masculinity, like men can't cry, don't show your emotions. And being a guy who writes poetry, I find this very odd. Like, why can't I write poetry? Because why can't I do this? And then you start reading about these things and you realize that that this structure exists and it oppresses everybody, and the only way to tackle it is through feminism.
Okay, so feminism, it's something I know that you're very passionate about. Yes. Where did it come from? Why is that? The passion, the drive to talk about issues around it?
Yeah. Okay, so I remember I was on your show sometime earlier this year, and we discussed this time where I was at Blankets and Wine and I saw two women being mistreated because of their gender. And that's when, like, I was always a feminist earlier on, but that's when I really just got the drive to just take on this issue, because I could not believe that people are suffering because of their sex. So it became a really important issue for me, and I write about it every once in a while.
Okay.
So when we decided to have an ebook, we decided we want to publish an ebook quarterly, and we asked ourselves, what do we do for the first one? We were both like, yeah, we're going to write one on women. Yeah. We do it, get out of the way, you know, start strong. So we chose a book on feminism.
Okay, and what can one expect to find in the book? What are some of the issues you've been able to touch on?
Maybe you take that.
Yeah, so the book has a lot of material, first of all, from how women older than us, like we call them our mothers, our aunts, our grandmothers, how they have influenced us and our feminism, And then we have how jail is also a feminist issue, jailing in Kenya. We have an essay on the Wolf of Wall Street and oppression. We have an essay from a lady.
What is the Wolf of Wall Street about? That one, I want some more details.
That's an excellent essay. She looks at how Jordan Belfort, the title character, you know, he proves that there's this culture in the world where it's okay to take from someone else's mouth to feed yourself. But is that fair? And she looks at how oppression correlates with gender structure. Then we also have a lady who talks about Islam and feminism. We have a gentleman who talks about how feminism has impacted his life. He's a queer gentleman. And what else?
We have Noni writes about loud men with opinion. And it's interesting, we're talking about this, and we're talking about how a woman's experience is equals to a man's thought, because a woman will be like, you know what I've experienced, and a guy will go, well, I think. And, and it becomes, so she's talking about how guys just are allowed to just have opinions on stuff they've never experienced without really talking about it. And then we have a lot of poetry in there as well, by those amazing poets, so just poetry around women. And yeah, I mean, for more, just kind of download the book. You know?
So what was the objective end, sorry? What was the objective of just coming together? You mentioned a couple of articles that, you know, writers have come in and just put in. For what is the point? What is the bottom line with this one?
What we were trying to show, actually the book is called When Women Speak, Redefining Kenyan Feminisms. And the re is in brackets. Because we are redefining and we are also defining. So actually there's another essay he hasn't mentioned on the street harassment, which we also ran on our site yesterday. So the point was to show people that, you know, you like to say that women are okay, you know, they can have jobs, they vote, they own property, but these are some experiences from women. These are experiences that people have had with feminism, you know, talking about things that they have experienced themselves, so that you can see that it's not what people like to think. As he said, it's not equal to your thoughts. These are lived experiences, and I think those ones exceed what people imagine or what they think.
What would you say are some of the stereotypes in the conversation of feminism? What are the stereotypes out there, and as far as women are concerned, that you've perhaps come across, seen, heard about, both of you?
Wow, so many.
Well, here's an example. In our organization, she's the finance mind and I'm the artistic mind, and everyone expects it to be the opposite way. So whenever someone wants to talk about maybe funding or something, they immediately talk to me, and I'm like, listen, I know nothing about this.
She's the money person.
But everyone's like, you know, the money person must be the man. And I mean, the stereotypes are everywhere. Women belong in the kitchen, like, you know, what's that meant to mean? And stuff like that. So we kind of counter them every day, and it's kind of normalization of this has created a space where people don't challenge them, where you can still see people laughing about the governor slapping the women's representative, and it's a joke, and it's like, how is this a joke? You know, so those kinds of things really like irk us out.
Okay. And I constantly have to defend him because guys are always like, men can't be feminists, and I'm like, my partner, my business partner, kind of is a feminist, so you're wrong. Right. We have the feminists are ugly, and no one wants to, they're not getting laid. That's why they're bitter. And oh my God, there's like, we could write books on what we get told. You're just angry because men don't love you. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No.
All right. What is interesting when we're talking about feminism is because there are many women in Kenya. I think even there are more women than there are men. So it's not that the numbers are what are working against the women. What is this that's working against the women? Is it the women working against themselves? Because when you have these campaigns, feminism, you have affirmative action on the other hand, you'd imagine is this minority group that, needs a lot to be more vocal to be heard and to get the space. But the numbers are in their favor. So what's the problem?
It's a learned system, It's not just bad here, it's bad all over the world. That's the thing that's terrible. Like even in the developed world, people are still treating women like a minority, which I like to say women are the biggest minority in the world, which is ironic. There are 100 women for every 102 men. So how is this a minority? But because of how they have been taught, how the world is structured, it's always been, against them. They only recently, like in the 40s, the suffrage movement started to get women to vote. It's only recently, and people like to think like the 40s is far. It's actually recent. My grandparents were born in the 20s.
Okay.
So it's very recent that women have started voting, they started owning property. There's a time my mom tells me you could not leave the state with your kids unless your husband signed off on it.
Wow.
There's a time to start a bank account, you had to get your husband to sign. So you see what I mean? And that was in the 80s or 70s. So
90s.
Then even
the 90s.
Even the 90s.
My mother couldn't leave the country unless my dad signed
But
on
where is it coming from? Because, why is it that things are the way they are? Where did this mindset come from? Where did this tilted, weighing scale come from in as far as women being on the lower side?
Well, I feel that calls for discussion in history.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, society was matriarchal, which is women were on top. This was before people understood how birth works. And so women were on top because of the cradle of life, because they are the ones who created life. And so we were very worship women. And then somewhere along the line, we went into the hunting and gathering mode. And then men became, because of the physique of the power, men went to the top. And now we're just trying to counter that because we're not living there anymore. I don't have to go out and kill a goat or kill a giraffe or something and drag it back home. That's not where we live now. And so a lot of this is learned, and then it's also taught to us, and it's taught to us in such a passive way that you don't know we're being taught. Like if I know growing up, I was such a crybaby, and and I used to be told real men don't cry. And then that begs the question, so women cry, so men can't show emotion, and men are taught not to show emotion. Women are taught to be very emotional, and then it becomes a stereotype. Leave these women, they're just being emotional. So it's something that's taught, and then we learn, because we don't learn it in class, we don't think about it as a lesson.
Okay. And there's a narrative that women are their worst enemies. So as much as there's you standing out and speaking and fighting for the rights of women, then what do you say about those who say, as you do that, women are just, enemies to themselves?
I think that's victim blaming. They are victims of a system, the same way people are victims of assault. When someone is robbed, you don't say, why were you walking there? They should not be robbed in the first place. They have the freedom to walk there. The fact that they're being robbed is the problem. So the same way here, when you say that women are their own worst enemies, they are victims of this system, and they have learned, just as he says, this is not taught only to men, it's taught to women as well. Like, I was quite the opposite of what he was. I was a very boyish girl when I was growing up, and it always used to be, there's a time, I've written about this on Brainstorm, that I did not go out to play for a month because I was laughed at for wearing shorts, because I wore shorts, because I like to climb walls. And I was told, girls don't wear shorts. And I never liked crying, and people were like, girls are supposed to cry when they fall. Why don't you cry? Such madness. And that was when I was 4 years old. So this thing is also taught to women as well, and it's an act of great bravery. I think I even said this last time. When you actually choose to say, we're not going to do it this way, those are the brave people, and you can't blame the rest for not coming out of it yet. And that's why you continue to fight for even those who don't want or don't think they need to be fought for, because after some time, very many of them do come around. Yeah?
Okay.
It takes one thing to happen, like what happened to me in January, or rather what I witnessed.
Yeah.
One thing happens and you realize, you know what, maybe this was a misconception on my part.
Okay.
So I don't blame them.
Has the feminism, when women speak, kind of conversation caught up in Kenya? You mentioned that one of the things that led you to write this is because a lot of the work that's online on feminism is from outside. We don't have much of that happening here. Why is that?
Well, first of all, I don't think the word caught up is the right word, because women have been speaking. I mean, you had Chelagat Mutai, you had Mercy Kano, you had women speaking and listening to each other for the longest time in Kenya. What we're trying to do is kind of amplify and break into the mainstream. And a lot of the stuff is based in the US and in the UK in terms of this thought leadership on this particular topic.
Yeah.
But that's not because of the women speaking, but because of who was listening and how we listened, and mainly also a big thing to do with America, because of how America has just kind of taken over the entire world. So we think with them, and we were just thinking that maybe these things need to be rooted here in our own stories, which is why we did with this When Women Speak publication.
Okay, where can people find it, and also what else are you working on as we bring this to a close?
Okay, so the site is actually at the bottom of the screen, brainstorm.co.ke. When you visit, you'll find a bright pink bar at the top saying click here to download our free ebook.
Yes, I see that.
So you'll just be taken to the site where the book is located, and it's a free download. So feel free to download it and share it with your friends. And going forward, we're going to be doing these ebooks every quarter. So every 3 months there'll be a new one. We hope to do one on public health next. The next one after that should be on education. And the last one for the year will be on poverty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. And all the best with what you're doing.
Thank you.
Brenda Wambui, Michael Onsando, co-founders of Brainstorm, with us in studio talking about feminism. When women speak, men as well can be feminists. We've learned from Michael this morning. Thank you for being part of our show.